Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about season 5, episode 2 of HBO's Insecure, entitled Growth. Okay, I'm gonna try to do that. I'm gonna do that different every week just to see if it's like funny to me. I don't know. I know this show has the same type of title every season. So I know that okay is going to be at the end of every one of these episode titles. I don't know. I'm just going to fuck around with it because I don't know how. There's no way I could say it and sound cool, so I might as well just make it goofy. But before I get started, I want to talk about a couple of things that tie into Insecure. For one, sorry this video is out late. It's currently Wednesday, the November 3rd. I'm getting through a cold. I still have it now. I didn't even watch this on Sunday night. Monday and Tuesday were kind of rough for me. I forced my Succession video on Monday, and I took yesterday off. I thought about taking today off, but I'm like, let me get this video out. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. But also, going forward, Dexter, a show that is the biggest show probably that Showtime has ever had, and one of my all-time favorites. It ended terribly. I think everybody across the board agrees with that, but I don't think that does anything to impact the fact that Dexter is one of the all-time great shows. Everybody loved it as a whole, and it's returning this Sunday. I think it's the 7th, and I'm going to be covering that as well. So Mondays are going to be dedicated to Succession and Dexter. So Insecure is probably going to get pushed back to a Tuesday release every week. So I just wanted to let you guys know that going forward, I don't want to put out 3 things in one day. I don't even really like putting out 2 in one day, but especially with Dexter being brand new and having been off for all these years, I really want to get the Dexter review out as quickly as possible. And I don't want to slack on Succession. So Insecure is going to take a little bit of the fall from that. But like I said, you can expect the Insecure videos on Tuesdays. Well, shit, maybe not Tuesdays. I'll think about it, but we'll see what happens. Actually, it might end up being Wednesdays, but we'll see. Anyway, onto this episode. This episode is, like I said, it's called Growth. Okay, and we see a lot of growth in this episode, I think, from both Molly and Issa. Molly shows a lot of growth as it pertains to like her dating life, right? And I think that this is important because I think we, especially in the Black community, we let social media kind of dictate for us how we engage in relationships. And you see a whole lot of people blaming the dating pool for their issues in relationships. You know, you'll see, oh, women are doing blah, 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 and I hate that. Men do blah, 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 and I hate that. And then you have things that like go viral on Twitter, like, you know, people will post like, you know, something talking shit about whoever it is that they're on a date with. And it's almost like dating has become like almost like an exhibit for your social media following. Like, oh, here's who I dated. Let's talk shit about him or her. And I think a lot of what's lost in the issues within dating these days is people's own contributions to their failures within relationships. They don't look at what they might have done wrong. And, you know, Molly has been shit with dating for the entirety of this series. And I like how in this episode, when she was making that dating profile, she really reflected on what she's done, how she's contributed to her failures in relationships, the standards that she has, the ways that she treats people. And I don't ever want to say I don't encourage lowering your standards, but I also what I do want to encourage is making sure that your standards are on par with what you bring to a relationship. You can't be, regular old motherfucker and just and want like this perfect person or whatever, right? And Molly is elite. Like, she has a good job. She's very well put together. But Molly tends to treat people and just in the wrong sort of way. So for her to be reflecting on the mistakes that she's made and the people that she's chosen to see, like choosing guys that are more high profile over, I don't remember his name, but the one guy who she really hit it off with, but I think he had like some kind of like a shit job or something like that. I can't remember his what job he worked, but he had some job and she just didn't find elite enough. So she started treating him like shit. So like for Molly to be reflecting on the things that she's done wrong in the past, I really liked how she looked at that one question that said, what is it like to date you? and then she reflected on the way that she's treated previous guys. You know, I like that level of growth for Molly. I think that's a good way for her to close out this series as someone who her art could be something like, you know, she starts off kind of vain, kind of conceited, materialistic, those sorts of things, goes through that, and then comes out on the other end as someone who finds someone who's a person that she meshes with emotionally, physically, or whatever. And she's not so much looking at what job this person has, what, you know, frat they were in when they were in college, or how successful they are. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that they have to be somebody who's just getting started in life making, you know, $8 an hour either. So she could find that balance. So I like that Molly ended up being a little bit more reflective on her contributions, and that shows growth from her end. Issa, on the other hand, well, I don't say on the other hand because that makes it sound she didn't have any growth, but Issa also had some growth in that I think Issa's realizing now what it takes to become successful within her business. And I liked the dynamic with her and that Crenshaw dude because, like, it presents two different aspects of how Black people look at success within business. Like, you have Crenshaw fresh out of jail. Well, I don't want to say fresh out of jail because I don't know when he got out, but he's you know, he's a former inmate. He's got this fashion line. He hires other former inmates, gives them jobs, really stand-up shit. I love that. And he doesn't like the fact that Issa's, this MBW, Nothing But Water, these people had notes that they wanted to remove certain things from his show. And he looked at that as almost like selling out to the white man. And that's a huge accusation to make within our community, because that's something we take personally. Like, nobody like Black people really take being called a sellout personally. And he didn't directly say, Issa, you are a sellout, but he said, if I do the things that you want me to do, that makes me a sellout, which is essentially the same thing. And that's a very rough thing to say to somebody in the Black community, especially somebody who's trying to do the right thing for their own business and their own brand. To call them a sellout, that's a low blow. And on the other side of things, we have Issa's perspective as someone who is fresh into entrepreneurism, or what you call entrepreneur noir. I thought that was clever. Fresh into entrepreneurship, and she's been through those struggles of somebody trying to take a different avenue than what Crenshaw is trying to do. And she's understanding that, you know, sometimes you got to placate to brands or the desires of the people who you work for. And it's just a matter of what thing you prioritize. If Issa looks at it like, okay, in order for me to be successful in what I'm trying to do, I might have to make some changes. I might have to make some concessions for the people that I'm working for because I have a brand that I have to represent, and that's just the nature of what I'm doing. And then Crenshaw's trying to do the same thing, but he's trying to do it from a more, he's not looking at it from the business side. He's looking at it from the personal, artistic side. Like, this is my project, this is my vision, and I'm not gonna betray that for the desires of some white man. That's the way Crenshaw looks at it. And I think both of those viewpoints are valid within their own realm. You know, like, I don't think that Crenshaw should look at Issa as being wrong, and I don't think that Issa should look at him as being wrong. They just don't see eye to eye on the way to get there. And Crenshaw's trying to move into Issa's lane, like the lane of like, I need somebody to put me in front of these people, but I also don't want to alter my vision. So, like, she's looking at it like he's coming into my lane, but wants to still play by his rules. And it's like, you know, if he wants to stay in his lane and do everything the way he wants to do it, then he can't move into that area of like, okay, let me do this for a brand instead of doing it on my own. And I like the fact that Issa stood her ground. She clearly took offense to the sellout line, which she should have. He wasn't right for saying that. That was a low blow. And she did everything the right way. She didn't betray anything to MBW. She didn't do anything wrong. And Crenshaw just decided he was going to do his own thing. So I like that. I'm going to quote Schitt's Creek. I like that journey for her. Like, I like that journey for both her and Molly. Like, I feel like they're both on a solid path for Issa professionally and for Molly romantically. But This episode as a whole was a little bit kind of mid, man. It wasn't that funny. These things that I just talked about were the best parts of the episode, but it also felt like an isolated episode. Like it didn't have much of a through line for the whole season. Like we didn't even see Lawrence. We didn't see Kelly and Tiffany. We didn't see any other secondary characters. We just saw Issa and Molly. And I felt like Issa and Molly's story was really kind of contained within this episode. I feel like, Molly's might extend out of this episode with her whole dating life. But I don't know. I felt like this episode didn't really move the needle that much, which is generally fine if we are in, the middle of a show's run. But when we know this is the final season and you only have 8 to 10 episodes to work with, so you only got 4 to 5 hours of content to work with, you don't really want to spend 30 of those minutes not like really slowing down the movement. So I felt like this episode didn't really push the pace enough for this season, because like I said, a final season, we got to wrap shit up. And I felt like this episode was just kind of sat there in its place, and it didn't really move the overall narrative of the show in a direction where we can kind of see like, okay, this is where we are moving toward. This is the direction we're going as it pertains to ending this television show, which at this point, we've only got 6 to 8 episodes at about half an hour piece left. So, not a good time to kind of like settle in place for an episode and take a breather. But there were also a couple of things that just like I didn't like from a decision-making perspective. For instance, so after Crenshaw decided he was going to do his full show anyway, fuck their notes, I'm going to do what I want to do. You see the white guy kind of cringing. I think his name was Seth, the guy from MBW. You see him kind of cringing at some of the stuff he's seeing. This show is like black as fuck, man. Like real M-bombs everywhere. Like the kind of shit that's going to make a white executive skin crawl. Like, oh, this is so awkward. And immediately I was like, oh, he's going to love it. It was so fucking predictable. And like, man, I feel like this show is better than that, man, as far as like writing goes. Like that whole thing where like you got that white guy who is trying to work with black people, and then they do something that's black as fuck, and they feel like, oh my god, I just ruined my opportunity to impress this white guy. And the white guy, totally fucking tone deaf, comes in like, yeah, I loved it. I love how you did this and that. Like that has happened hundreds and thousands of times in television and movies. So like watching him cringe like that, I was like, oh, he's gonna love it, and it's gonna be super fucking predictable. And that's exactly what it was. It would have been much more interesting if Issa did have to suffer some form of consequences for what Crenshaw did, because at the end of the day, they entrusted Issa to provide the type of show that they asked for, and she didn't. Crenshaw did something else. Now, yes, he went rogue, like X-Men, like she said, but at the end of the day, she's responsible for whatever happened. So her being held to some sort of consequences for that would have been more interesting and made more sense and felt more real. Whereas the white guy just loving it felt like generic fucking, like, the kind of shit you write for, like, your generic black comedy. Like, that's some shit that would happen on, fucking Homeboys in Outer Space or some shit. That was the most random fucking reference. I didn't want to insult something like Martin or Fresh Prince by using that. So I went Homeboys in Outer Space. I don't know why. But, like, that felt like, it felt very sitcom, like basic television sitcom, network television sitcom. I thought that was a corny-ass choice. I already mentioned that I didn't think it was a very funny episode. It did have its laughs, but when you have an episode without Kelly, you're already going to have your laugh count go down a little bit. I also mentioned that I did feel like it was a isolated episode, so I already talked about that. So those are the 3 things that I kind of had issue with as far as this episode goes. But all in all, I felt it was a solid episode, but not good, not great. It felt kind of, like I said, it just kind of felt like filler a little bit, and you really, really don't want that. When you are known to be working on your final season. We all know it's the final season, and you only got 4 to 5 hours of content to work with. You don't want to slow that momentum down for 30 minutes in the second episode of the season. You don't want to do that in any episodes when everyone involved knows it's the final season. So that's all I got on this week's episode. I'll see you guys next week for episode 3. It's probably going to be Wednesday. Sorry to say. I forgot that I've started going into the office on Tuesday, so I won't be here at home to record videos on Tuesday. So yeah, it's probably gonna be Wednesday, because Monday is gonna be for Succession, and and Dexter. So I'll probably see you guys next Wednesday, a week from today, to talk about episode 3. Peace.